morning, students. I'm here this morning to teach one of the sense organs, and that is the eye. We have done the other sense organs, and that is the tongue. We have done the nose, and I'm here this morning now to teach the eye. And the eye, the main function of the eye is just for as an organ of sight and also for accommodation. And then the eye also is found in all vertebrates. That means that all vertebrates has the eye that they use for seeing as well as accommodation. Seeing is just when you see something, you know that okay, this is what it is, and you can differentiate it. And accommodation is just when you can see near objects and also far objects. And I'm also to teach the eye defects. That means when you have long-sightedness, short-sightedness, presbyopia, astigmatism, cataract. That is when the eye is not functioning properly. We have the protective structures of the eye. And the protective structures of the eye is, we have the eye socket. The eye socket is found in the skull, and that is where the main part of the eye is found. If you look at the skull, you just see a hollow structure inside. That is where the eye is found. Because the part that we used to see, that you see externally, that part is just a very small fraction of the main eye. And then the eye socket also is just to protect the eye in case of mechanical injury. And we also have the conjunctiva, we have the eyelashes, we also have the eyelids, as well as the tear gland. The eyelids also, that is where the tear glands are found. They prevent water, they prevent sweat from entering the eye, and also prevent it from mechanical injury. Like in the case of the conjunctiva is the outermost part of the eye. And what it does is just that when the eye is about to be infected by bacteria, it becomes inflamed. That means that it's like swelling up and reddish in color. That means by swelling up like that, it just prevents the infection from entering the innermost part of the eye. You also have the eyelashes. The eyelashes actually are the ones that prevent dust from entering the eye. That is the eyelashes. We also have, this is the eyelid, and then the tear gland is found inside the eyelids. And then the tear gland also, it is antiseptic in function because it has a salty substance inside. It's not just, it's actually fluid. And that is what comes out when you're crying. Because people used to say that when you cry, also, you help to clean your eyes. Because what it does is that it kills most of the bacteria that may have entered the eye. That's why you see that if you go to a smoky area or a dusty area, by the time you leave the place, even before you leave the place, you see that it will look as if you're crying. So it just prevents dust from entering the eye, because the dust also may have bacteria that may make the eye to be infected. And the eye also is spherical in shape. That means like just like the shape of a ball. And then the eyeball also is attached to 6 muscles. The 6 muscles enables the eye to be able to move in all directions. That means sideways, upwards, and also downwards. And I have a model of the eye. And then the eye also can be divided into 3 main parts. We have the sclerotic layer, we have the choroid layer, and then we have the retina. The sclerotic layer is the white part of the eye. If you look at my eye very well, that white part, that is part of the sclerotic layer. And what it does is that it gives shape to the eye, and also it protects the eye. And at the front of the sclerotic layer, we have the conjunctiva, we have the cornea. The conjunctiva, just like I've explained, is part of the protective structure of the eye because it is the outermost part of the eye. And then if any infection just wants to enter the eye, it becomes inflamed and prevents the infection from entering inside the eye. And then the cornea also, what the cornea does is that it helps to refract light inside the eye, and it is also transparent, so that it allows light to be able to enter the eye. And we also, and at the back of the sclerotic layer, we have the optic nerves. And the main function of the optic nerves is that it helps to conduct, or it helps to transmit impulses to the brain and also from the brain. And then at the outermost part after the cornea, we have the aqueous humor. The aqueous humor is fluid-filled, and then what it does is just that it helps to keep the shape, the spherical shape of the eye, and also it contains proteins, sugars. That means that it helps to nourish the eye. The second part of the eye is the choroid layer, and then the choroid layer also has black pigments, and at the front we have the iris, and then the iris is what gives the eye its color. Because if you maybe if you want to do a passport now, they ask part of what you are going to fill is what is the color of the eye. If it's for a white man, they are the ones that normally have the blue eyes, but for a black man, we normally have black or brown, except for those that has albinism. And then the iris also, it contains the circular and also the radial muscles. And what it does is just that it's just by contracting and relaxing, it just controls the size of the pupil. The pupil is just an aperture, just like an opening that allows light to be able to enter inside the eye. And then at the front of the choroid layer, we have the ciliary muscle. And then attached to the ciliary muscle is the suspensory ligament. And then the suspensory ligament also is holding the lens. And then the lens actually is what refracts the light, so that it can now, the image will now be formed on the retina. And the lens is just an elastic, transparent, biconvex in nature. That means that we don't have the lens here. If not, I will have shown you how the lens looks like. And then the contraction and the relaxation of the ciliary muscles and the suspensory ligament, that is what helps the eye to be able to accommodate. That means to be able to see far and near objects very well. That means you can focus very well. You can see things that are far, and then you can also see things that are near. And then the innermost part of the eye, that is the retina. And then the retina also, it is transparent, and what it does is that is actually where everything that you see is being formed on. And then all images that are being formed on the retina, they are inverted and smaller. But by the time it gets to the brain interprets it correctly. That means that you're seeing me like this now. If it's possible to just see the image on the retina, I am inverted, that means upside down and smaller. And at the back of the retina, we have the blind spot. And then at the blind spot, that is just where no image is being formed. That means it has no light at all. And then on the retina, it's not all the parts of the retina that the images are being formed on. For accurate accommodation, the image must be formed on the yellow spot of the retina. It's just a small spot, and that's actually the point where images are supposed to be formed on. The moment the images are not formed on the yellow spot, either it is formed at the back or at the front, that is when you now say that, okay, the person has an eye defect, and then it may need spectacular lenses. So this is what I've been talking about. We have the eyes. The protective structure of the eye is the eye sockets, the eyelid, the eyelashes, the tear gland, and the conjunctiva. And then the eye also can be divided into three main parts. We have the sclerotic layer, we have the choroid layer, and the retina. And I have a chart here with me. You can see these are the 6 muscles that are attaching the eye to the eye socket. And then the 6 muscles enables the eye to be able to move in all directions without moving the head. That means I can look sideways, I can look up, and I can look down without moving my head. And then you can see this is the outermost part, and that is the sclerotic layer. And then in front of the sclerotic layer, that is where the conjunctiva is found. That's the outermost part. And then it is protective in function. It also helps to refract light inside the eye, and it is also transparent. Because the moment it's not transparent or is opaque, that means that it will not allow light to be able to refract the images inside the eye. And then we also have, immediately after the conjunctiva, we have the cornea. The cornea is just a tough structure that also helps to just refract the light inside the eye. And then after we have the aqueous humor. The aqueous humor is fluid filled, and then it's filled up with proteins, with sugars, and then it helps to nourish the eye. That means provides food for the eye. And immediately after we have the pupil. The pupil is just a space. It's just like when you just create any space, just like an opening. And what it does is just that it allows images to pass through it, to get to, this is the lens, to the vitreous humor, before the image will now be formed on the retina. This is the sclerotic layer, that is the white part of the eye. This is the choroid layer, and this is the retina. And the yellow spot that I'm talking about, this is the yellow spot. It is only on this spot that a correct or accurate seeing can be found. The moment anything you see is before the yellow spot or after the yellow spot, then the eye has a defect. So I'm not going to be talking about the structure of the eye. We have the sclerotic layer at the front. We have the conjunctiva, followed by the cornea, and then we have the aqueous humor. And also at the back, that is the optic nerves that helps to connect, to just transmit impulses to the brain and back from the brain. And then the second layer, that is the choroid layer. And then the choroid layer also is pigmented, and also it contains blood vessels that helps to bring food as well as oxygen to the eye. And at the front of the choroid layer, that is where the ciliary muscle is found. And attached to the ciliary muscle is the suspensory ligament. And then the choroid layer is the second layer. And then at the front, that means from the eyes that you can see, is the ciliary muscle. And attached to the ciliary muscle is the suspensory ligament. And then the suspensory ligament actually is what suspends the lens. That means that holds the lens in position, and it also helps in accommodation. And the lens also, it is elastic, and then it is transparent, and it is also biconvex. So this the lens, though my model doesn't have the lens. And then we also have the iris. The iris is what gives the eye its color. And then the iris also, the contraction and the relaxation of the iris, it was controls this aperture, that is the pupil. The pupil also, it can be reduced, and then it can also expand depending on the light intensity, to allow light to pass through the lens for the image now to be formed on the retina. And then the retina is the outer innermost part of the eye. And then the retina also has sensory cells. It has two sensory cells. We have the cones and the rods. And then the cones, they can only see colored objects. And then the light intensity also must be high. That means that at low light intensity, like let's say in the night, the cones does not work at all. But the rods, that is the second sensory cell of the retina. So what happens is just that you can see anything but it's only sensitive to black and white. That means that anything that is colored, it will not see it. And then it can also see either the light intensity is high or the light intensity is low. And then at the back of the retina is the blind spot. And then the blind spot, no image is being formed on the blind spot. And also the retina, where the actual image is formed for accommodation to take place, is this. That is the yellow spot, that is the fovea centralis. If the image is being formed before the retina, that means that is short-sightedness. If the image is being formed after this yellow spot, that is long-sightedness. So we also have eye defects. There are different types of eye defects that are found. We have short-sightedness, that is called myopia. And then in the case of short-sightedness, that means that the individual can only see things that are very near. That's why sometimes you see some people, if they want to read, they'll put the book very close to their eyes. It's because their eyes cannot see things that are far. And then it is also called myopia. Sometimes you use it if you are talking to somebody and then you just notice that the person is not just getting it, the person is not seeing the far effect of things. You now say, why are you so myopic? So you can see that it's just from biology. That means that you are short-sighted. You are just looking at short things. You are not looking at the long-term effect of things. So we have short-sightedness, and short-sightedness most times it may be due to the curvature of the lens. Maybe it is too convex. That means it's just like too thick, because the moment it is too thick, you cannot see things that are far. And then sometimes it is due to the eyeball being too long. When the eyeball is too long, that means that instead of the image to now be formed on this yellow spot, the image may be formed before the yellow spot, because it may be due to the suspensory ligament and the ciliary muscles. Maybe they cannot effectively control the curvature or the focal length of this lens, and then they will not be able to see things that are far. And normally what is being used to control or just to correct it is the use of a concave lens. What the concave lens does is just that if the image is being formed there, that means what the concave lens actually does is just that it diverges the rays so that it will now be formed on the yellow spot. And then the opposite is just for long-sightedness. Long-sightedness is also called hypermetropia. That is when the eyeball is too short. So the image now is being formed after the yellow spot. And what's normally used, the lens that is normally used to correct it, is just the convex lens. And what the convex lens does is just that it converges the rays. That means the rays that are here now converges. That means it brings it closer, so that it now be formed on the retina and the person can actually see very well. We also have presbyopia, and then in the case of the presbyopia, that is due to age, because sometimes the ciliary muscles and the suspensory ligaments, they just like, because of overuse, because of age, they will not be able to contract and relax. And then what is used to correct it is the bifocal lens. We also have astigmatism. In the case of astigmatism, that means that is the unequal curvature of the cornea and also the lens. So the image is just being formed in any part of the retina and not on the yellow spot. And what is normally being used is the cylindrical lenses. So the cylindrical lenses now helps to bring the image to be formed on the yellow spot. We also have cataracts, we have glaucoma, we have night blindness, and then all these are eye defects. Care of the eye. We need to take care of our eyes, because you know that you need the eyes for so many things. Because even sometimes some people will tell you that this color is yellow, and then if you look at it very well, say, this color is red. So that means that we need to take care of your eyes so that it will function properly and not have any defect. If there's any eye defect, the best thing is just to consult an optician, not that you just go to anywhere or you just do self-care, because that may lead to damaged eye. And then if you want to read any book, make sure that it is fairly large. Reading of small prints is just supposed to be avoided, because it can lead to short-sightedness or long-sightedness. And also, if you have itchy eyes, it's better that maybe you use a clean handkerchief to clean the eyes, not that you just take your tissue paper or anything, or just use your hand, your bare hands, because your hands may be infected, and use it to rub the eyes. And also, you must avoid dusty areas and smoky areas, because they actually enter the eyes. Because you notice that if you go to any dusty area, that most times when you are sweeping your classrooms and you did not wet it with water, what happens? You see that after some time, you just see that you're blinking, and then tears are coming from your eyes. The tears is just to cleanse the eye and prevent the growth of bacteria. And also, we must use clean water to clean our faces, because there is the probability that when you're cleaning your face, that it's possible that part of the water enters the eye. So we need to take care of our eye very well, so that it will not have any infection or any defect. And if there's any defect, just try and go to an optician. Let the optician just recommend any drug or any eye drop that is supposed to be used. And when you also notice that your eye is red and itchy or swollen, just go to an optician. They will just recommend what you are supposed to use, so that you don't lose your sight. And then we also have, sometimes you notice that if you are inside the room, let's say now you are at home and you are inside a dark room, let's say it's around 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning, you are awake, not as if you are sleeping, but you did not stand up, and somebody just accidentally on the light. What do? You see that you are dazzled, and you just, oh, please, off the light. Because what has happened is just that, because you are in the dark room and your eyes has opened, this aperture, that is the pupil, and then most of the part of the lens are exposed. And then this lens is not supposed to be exposed to too much light, because that's why you're dazzled. And I say, oh, please close it. So what happens is just that the iris just contracts and just reduces the aperture or the size of the pupil, so that it now become that it's just a small part of the lens that is exposed. So that is what happens when you are dazzled. Like now, you just inside the room, you just open your eyes because you are awake, but it is still dark and the light is not on. And then you just notice that somebody just wants to light you. Sure, please. It's because the size of the pupil that is exposed is more. So your iris now, after some time, just adjust, and then you just see that you be able to adjust to that light intensity. And then the other part is just that sometimes if you are coming from outside and now you now enter a dark room, you see that you just say, I can't see at all. What is happening is just that the size of the pupil is small. It allows only a small light to enter through into the lens. And then by the time you stay for some minutes, you now say, oh, I can see everything around me, because the pupil size has been increased. The summary of what I've been teaching since is that the eye is part of the sense organs, and then the main function of the eye is for seeing as well as accommodation. Seeing is when you can sight something. You know that, okay, this is your biology teacher and this is your chemistry teacher. And accommodation is when you can see things that are far and things that are near. Not that you need to put the book very close to you, or you need to put the book very far away from you. Because when the eye is able to accommodate very well, you can see anything, either is far from you or is near. And then the eye also is found in all vertebrates. That means that all vertebrates have eye that they use to see. And we have the eye is spherical in shape, just like the shape of a ball. And the protective structures of the eye are, we have the conjunctiva, we have the eyelids, we have the eyelashes, we have the tear gland, and then these are the structures that help. We also have the eye socket. That means the part of the eye where the part of the skull where the eye is. And then the eye also is being held in position. That means the attachment to the skull by 6 muscles. The muscles enables it to be able to move in all directions without moving the head. That means you can look up, look down, and sideways. And then we also have the tear gland. The tear gland also, it has an enzyme, and the enzyme is antiseptic in function. What the enzyme actually does is just that it kills most of the bacteria that may want to enter the eye. And then, like in the case of the eyelids, it is also mechanical in function. It prevents water from entering the eye, and then it also prevents sweat from entering the eye. And then the conjunctiva becomes inflamed when there is any entry of harmful or pathogenic microorganisms. So it becomes red and inflamed. By doing that, that means that it prevents the bacteria from entering the innermost part of the eye. And then the structure of the eye can be divided into 3 main parts. We have the sclerotic layer, we have the choroid layer, and we have the retina. The sclerotic layer is the outermost part of the eye, and then in front it forms the conjunctiva and also the cornea, and then it also forms the optic nerve. And then the choroid layer, it is also pigmented, and then at the front, that is what forms the iris. It also forms the ciliary muscles, and attached to the ciliary muscles. The eye can be divided into 3 main parts. We have the sclerotic layer, the choroid layer, and also the retina. And then the retina is actually where the image is being formed. We also have adaptation for near vision. The ciliary muscles contract, the suspensory ligaments relax, and then the lens assumes a more convex shape. Then the focal length of the lens is also reduced. That means that what happens is just that the lens now becomes more round, as if like a spherical shape. And then we also have adaptation for far vision. The ciliary muscles relax, the suspensory ligaments contract, and then the lens now assumes a more concave shape, and then the focal length is now enlarged. And then we have the eye defects. We have short-sightedness that is called myopia, and then we have long-sightedness that is called hypermetropia. We have presbyopia, we have astigmatism, we have cataract, we also have night blindness. Those are the eye defects. And then the care of the eye, that means that you must make sure that you read your books where the light intensity is moderate. And also, if there's any eye defect, make sure that you go to an optician or somebody that can treat the eye very well. Don't just self-meditate at home. And also make sure that when you're cleaning your face, you use clean water, because it's possible that the eye also, that the water enters the eye. And then what happens when a person is dazzled for some time, when you are being exposed to bright light in a dark room? What is actually happening is just that the pupil size, when you are inside the dark room, the pupil size is enlarged, and by the time the light is on, too much light is entering inside the pupil, so it now contracts to make sure that the pupil size is reduced. See you next lesson.